Welcome students. This program is designed for the Bachelor of Arts, particularly for SYBA students in the subject of Psychology, Semester 3. Course code is PSC 103 and the course title is Social Psychology 1. In this module, we will be studying Unit 3, Evaluating the Social World. The module name is Attitude Formation. I am Dr. Alvita De Souza. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology of PS's Artisan College of Arts and Science, Farmagudi Ponda, Goa. In this session, we will learn what is attitude, the two basic types of attitude, how our attitudes develop, classical conditioning, instrumental conditioning, and observational learning. Through this module, you will be able to understand and describe the various factors that affect our development of our attitude. Coming to an important question, what is attitude? Attitude refers to people's evaluation of every aspect of the world. So when you look at a concept or you look at an event or a person and you evaluate that concept, event or person, this is called as an attitude. So people can have two types of attitude. It can be a favorable attitude or it can be an unfavorable attitude based on the reactions to issues. You may even have an attitude towards a specific person. Like you may have an attitude towards Barack Obama. You may have an attitude towards objects, ideas, actions. Like you may have an attitude towards sports, or you may have an attitude towards a particular political event, or entire social groups. Like you may have a particular attitude towards a religious group, or you may have a particular attitude towards an ethnic group. So therefore, attitudes can be of various types towards various people, towards various events, and this is what makes up our personality. So attitude is an important concept in social psychology. Just because your attitude is capable of coloring each and every aspect of your life. So how you look at situations depends on your attitude. And this is what is meant by attitude, coloring each and every aspect of our life. Now, attitudes can be of two basic types. You can either have an explicit attitude or you can have an implicit attitude. An explicit attitude is something that is conscious and it is reportable. So when you are well aware of what are your thought processes regarding a particular person, regarding a particular event, that is called as an explicit attitude. That is, you know that it exists, it is conscious to you and it is reportable. You can report about such an attitude. An implicit attitude is something that is more subtle. It is uncontrolled and sometimes even if you want to access it, it is not consciously accessible to us. So attitudes can be something that is overt and very explicable to each one of us and reportable, or it can be something that we are not aware at all and it manifests itself over a period of time. How do our attitudes develop? There are three ways by which our attitudes develop. The first is what is called as classical conditioning. This concept was initially put up by Ivan Pavlov. It is learning based on association. So it is a basic principle in psychology that one stimulus can trigger off a memory and become a signal for a second idea. Like for instance, if you hear the sound of water, it may make you thirsty. Or for instance, if you hear some food being fried, it may make you hungry. So it is a basic principle of psychology that one stimulus can trigger off a memory of another. We may often realize that when we observe certain things, It brings a flashback of the memories of the past. Now, classical conditioning is something which advertisers often use. That is, they pair a pleasant stimulus with a neutral one, and then they get you to transfer the positive feelings to the neutral stimulus. So when you transfer your feelings, a positive feeling of something else to another, that is how an advertiser would use classical conditioning while getting you to advertise and use their products. For instance, if an advertiser is marketing a product of beer, the target audience for the beer would be young male adults. So now advertisers may assume that young attractive women may elicit a positive response. Therefore, what they do, they pair up a positive stimulus with a neutral one. That is, in the advertisement, they will use young beautiful women along with their beer logo, thus transferring your positive attitude to the neutral stimulus, which is the beer. So therefore, when we speak about classical conditioning, it goes deep into our minds and it conditions us to behave in particular ways. Coming to which, we have this term called as subliminal conditioning. Now, subliminal conditioning occurs in our absence of conscious awareness. That is, we are not aware that it is happening, but it is happening. So now when you are exposed to a given stimulus, to a given situation, automatically you are conditioning yourself towards that stimulus. Now when you have familiarity towards that object, towards that situation, it may trigger off a positive attitude. Like for instance, you have been listening to advertisements in between, in the breaks, while you are watching a TV serial. Now, as you are watching these advertisements, you are being subliminally conditioned towards that product. So when you go by in the supermarket and you see that product, you are drawn towards it because the exposure to the product is what has made you form an attitude towards it. So advertisers often use this kind of conditioning to make a person engage in behaviors which is profitable for them. The next is what is called as instrumental conditioning. Instrumental conditioning is being rewarded for the right views. Often, right through childhood, children may be rewarded with approval, with smiles, with hugs for stating the right views. So this becomes a reward for that child to engage in such behaviors in the future. Now, when we observe the success of others, this could also be a kind of reward for us. So when we have learned that a person has done and completed criterion ABC to achieve success, this also becomes a reward or a motivator for us to do the same thing. Now, attitudes can also be formed when a person is consciously aware that different group members they are with will reward them or punish them for a particular attitude. So many times when you find yourself in a group, you may express an attitude or a set of ideas which are not yours at all. And you express it for a simple reason that you want to get along with that group. So therefore, sometimes our attitudes are formed by our groups. So therefore, the presence of others may definitely impact the way we interact with them and also the way we project our attitudes. Now, some individuals, very interestingly, keep their private opinions private, especially when they are in a group or an organization which has a different set of attitudes or ideas. The third is observational learning, that is learning by exposure to others. So observational learning refers to those attitudes that an individual gets or acquires just by observing others. Now each individual has a tendency to engage in social comparison. So when they compare themselves with others, they realize that they have to learn certain ideas, certain attitudes. Like for instance, you see a person who is really successful. You are going to engage in a comparison with that person and automatically motivate your behaviors towards what the person is doing to get that success. So this is how observational learning occurs, and sometimes our attitude comes through observing others. So people often adjust their attitudes to hold views closer to others, which they identify with. Now these are called as reference groups. Like for instance, you belong to a particular religion, but you are in a group where the other individuals are of a different religion. So you may adjust your attitude so that you can identify with those people, because those people are your friends, because they are your colleagues. You may adjust your views so that you get along with them. So our group or reference group plays a very important role on us. Now we are strongly influenced by the identification with various groups. So we can have a group which is our religious group, we can have a group that is a workplace group, we can have a friend circle. These are all your reference groups which determine your attitude. Coming to the keywords and conclusion, we have learned what is attitude. We have learned the three ways by which our attitude develops, that is through classical conditioning, through instrumental conditioning, and by observational learning. These are your references which you all can refer to for further reading. Thank you.